and welcome to We're Talking Sports. I'm Sterling Shepard, and our topic today is Super Bowl 46. Welcome to We're Talking Sports. I'm your host, Sterling Shepard, and I want to welcome my guest today, Jerry Getka. And Jerry, I appreciate you coming on to We're Talking Sports.
You're welcome.
Jerry, where were you at on Super Bowl day?
I'm sure I was at home watching it on television, but I'd have preferred to be in Indianapolis.
Oh, you know, you were probably one of 111 million people that watched that show that day in the United States. That's one in every 3 households that were watching this.
So I could have gone to either house on the side of me next door and I could have watched the same game.
Probably good.
I wonder if they had better food.
And talking about the Super Bowl, but you know, a lot of events happen to really make us an interesting Super Bowl. Are you a Ravens fan?
Most of the time.
Did you watch that game between New England?
I watched
and
most
the
of
Ravens?
it. I especially watched the ending.
That little word "if" could have changed the Super Bowl, correct?
It could have, but it just wasn't meant to be, I guess.
Well, I guess a lot of people would like to know, what do you think of that last 30 seconds or 20 seconds when the ball was in the air and we're all sitting there waiting for it to go through the uprights?
Like anything else, it didn't have to be that way. If they'd have played a better game leading up to that, it wouldn't have been that close at the end.
Okay. Well, also, and then we'll get right to the Super Bowl, but were you at any time in the last couple of weeks of this regular season thinking that we could have 2 brothers in the Super Bowl named Harburg?
Oh, naturally. It would have been very interesting.
Would have been
especially
interesting.
since it would have been a replay of the Thanksgiving game. And especially since we won that one.
Right. And, you know, of course, you know, the Super Bowl is also televised very nationally also, you know, just about in every country. And
Televised, yes, but I'm not sure it's as appreciated in other countries as it is here, since football is not their major sport.
right. Well, you know, naturally the troops like that, but you know, and back to the Super Bowl, you know, New England and the Patriots, they faced each other in the Super Bowl a few years ago too.
Yes, they did, and the
You know
result was the
of that
same.
one.
Result was the same.
The result was the same.
But it wasn't quite as big this time as that time. I didn't feel it was anyway, because
No,
that time you had an undefeated team. And
Well, you
this
know, they
time, of course,
compare the New England Patriots and the New York Giants to the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees. That kind of rivalry.
I can see that.
They compare it. They say that you know that they can go at each other so much like that. One of the big topics also was after the game. Tom Brady's wife made a lot of comments. What are your thoughts on that, Jerry?
Actually, when you're watching Tom Brady's wife, you're really not listening to her.
Well, you know, I understand. I heard some of the comments, and one was, well, you know, Eli Manning owns your husband. Okay. And I can understand her getting mad, but I guess the question that a lot of fans have is, why did she attack her own team?
Well, first of all, she's a celebrity in her own right, so she really feels, I'm sure, that she can say what's on her mind at any given time.
Well, that's true. What did you think about the commercials on the Super Bowl?
I don't feel that any of them were as memorable as they've been in years past. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one that I actually watched, to be honest with you.
I thought one was kind of interesting. And tell me if you saw it, was the dog. It had a doggy door, and he couldn't get through the doggy door. He was too fat. So he had a little hunting board. He was running on it and everything, trying to slim down. He finally slimmed down and got out the door. But I thought it was like a dog food commercial, but it wasn't. It was a car commercial.
I don't remember it at all, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this.
Did he finally catch the car?
No, he didn't. What do you think a 30-second commercial on a Super Bowl cost?
Well, I know I researched it several years ago for a company that I was working for, and it was $1.2 million then for a 30-second spot.
Yeah, well, that times change. It was $3.5 million for a 30-second commercial.
It's more than a cup of coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, they were sold out by Thanksgiving Day.
I can't imagine anybody trying to reach out to that many people with a message they haven't already put out there, to be honest with you. And unless they're being very, very creative, for that many people, because so many people watch it just for that purpose, it would almost be a letdown if they weren't creative, if they didn't create something memorable.
Well, you're right. It's a tradition that people watch Super Bowl obviously for football, but they watch it for these new commercials.
For the commercials, for the halftime show, and for the cheerleaders.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned.
I didn't watch the
that's a good-
halftime show either, so.
Why didn't you watch the halftime show? You know, who
I
the show
probably
was about,
flipped
did you?
channels and watched something else.
You're not a Madonna fan?
No, not really.
Oh, you missed a good halftime show.
Did she do Material Girl on some of her old
The
hits?
Material Girl, yeah, very, very, very theatrical, very colorful show.
I think that's why I don't watch the halftime show as much, because when you see it on television, it's totally different than if you were at the stadium watching it, because the viewpoint from the stadium is so far away, unless you're watching the big screens on the side. And yet, when you're watching it on television, you might as well not even be watching the Super Bowl. You could be watching any type of television show because
They
of the
brought it
close-ups.
they brought it right into your living room this
Right.
year. Very, very good.
I'd rather have her in my living room. That would be interesting.
Did you tune in for the beginning of the Super Bowl for the national anthem?
No, I was probably getting the pizza at the front door at that point in time, but I know the words.
Well, it's sort of interesting. Kelly Clarkson was the host,
Singer.
the singer that did the song. And an interesting point is,
Did she do it country style?
no, American Idol, that show American Idol.
Right.
Okay, very popular show. The last 5 years on the Super Bowl, 4 of the singers came from American Idol.
Well, they're certainly popular and they're certainly well known, so I'm sure that's the tie-in for the most part.
And again, with the Super Bowl, we got down to, it was a throwing game.
We're going to talk about the game now. Great.
And I think that, I guess that's why they call it the Super Bowl. It was a throwing game. I mean, it was
Now,
a-
I've heard on some of the sports shows afterwards that they've actually called this one of the best Super Bowls ever. I'm not quite sure I agree with that. I mean, it was a good game, but it was what you'd expect of a good game. It wasn't anything super as such.
Well, I think they really.
Or maybe it's because I didn't really have a rooting interest.
I'd probably say it was one of the best because, I mean, you had, you know, 2 of the best quarterbacks in football out there, Eli Manning, and you had, you know, Tom Brady, who's, you know, they went at it many times.
Now, certainly Tom Brady has played long enough and done it long enough and been successful long enough that you'd call him one of the elite quarterbacks. Eli Manning, I'm not sure he'd be even thought of in that range if he hadn't called himself that early in the year and made everybody start thinking about it.
Well, just quickly, do you think Eli Manning has outgrown the shadow of his brother Peyton?
I think he did this year, yes, definitely. Definitely. And primarily because Peyton didn't play this year. Be interesting to see if he plays again.
Yeah, well, that's sort of a sad thing in itself because he's a great quarterback. It was kind of interesting, though, that you mentioned that what the Colts did and what a key player can do for a team.
Well, again, here in this area, the history of the Colts leaves a bad taste in all of the fans' mouth. And I'm afraid I'm one of those as well. So pretty much whatever the Colts do, what Irsay is doing to Manning at the time, I just think to myself, yeah, I expect that. You kind of expect that from them. But that's because of our perspective being here in Baltimore, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point you broke up. That's why I said it was so interesting to lead up to the Super Bowl. The Ravens would have beat New England. We'd have went to Indianapolis, home of the Colts.
That would have been an interesting thing. Almost as interesting as, you talk about the elite quarterbacks, and don't you expect the Mannings to be both elite because of their father?
Well, just hold that thought, Jerry. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back. going back, when we left, we were talking about the Ravens and the Patriots. Jerry, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, because that was such an exciting and heartbreaking game.
I think what makes it most heartbreaking, again, there's a certain window of opportunity that every team has because of the players, their ages, the contracts, and all that sort of thing. And with the players that the Ravens have, who are so big in the community here, you know, players like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and a few of the others who are getting older now, you have to wonder if that was their last shot. And that's what makes it sad, I think. Not so much that they lost this time, but that they might not win in the future.
Well, you know, with that said, but, you know, a lot of fans out there want to know, you know, we're all, in the last few minutes, were the right calls made?
I don't know, we could pick up the phone and call Cam Cameron and ask him, I don't know.
All right, well, let's put you in that seat of the quarterback.
Okay,
Okay, you're down in the last 3 minutes. You need a field goal to tie, touchdown to win.
You can't argue
I'm going to put
with,
the ball in your hand now.
okay, you can't argue with the call that was made for Flacco to throw the pass into the end zone to Lee Evans, who was open, got his hands on the ball. I mean, how can you argue with a call that almost worked, and the only reason it didn't is because the guy dropped the ball?
Right.
And, I mean, they're all professionals, they're getting paid, but so are the people on the other team. And the guy on the other team made a good play. You can't argue with that. Whether it was legal or not, who knows, but he made a good play.
Do you think, in that game, do you think the quarterbacks, Flacco and Brady, were sort of even up? Or one was a little better? Or?
I still think Brady's better, only because of his years of experience. I mean, you have to give him that. Flacco's a great quarterback, and he's certainly a quarterback for the Ravens going forward. But he's not Brady right now. Maybe he will be, but he's not right now. He's still a little more mechanical, I think. I don't think Flacco's as fluid and as spontaneous as some of the quarterbacks in the league that are more experienced.
Well, do you think it's him, or do you think it's the coach, Cam Cameron? You know, a lot of people ask today, why is he here?
I think it's him. I don't think he's ready to be as spontaneous yet because he's got the skills, but he doesn't have the time, and he hasn't paid his dues like some of the others at this point in time. Will he? Can he? Yeah, probably so. But he's only his fourth year in the league. He's a young guy, young quarterback. He's done tremendous things for the amount of time he's got in, but you can't expect him to be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, who've been, 15 years in the league.
Well, what if it changes time? Maybe I personally think he's got the talent. I don't think he's being turned loose.
I'm not sure that he should be turned loose. I'm not sure anybody should be turned loose other than maybe a Ray Lewis.
Really turned loose, but I think if he sees a certain...
Flacco's like anybody else in any sport or any celebrity. You know, you want to take center stage. If it were up to him, he'd throw the ball on every down. If I were the quarterback, that's what I'd want to do.
Well, that makes the game exciting.
But I'd hope somebody, you know, that has a bigger picture would say, no, here's what we need to do to win. And hopefully that's what the coaches are doing. Hopefully.
Okay.
You know, I have faith and trust in the, I guess, the hierarchy of the Ravens.
Well, you know, our field goal kicker coach, he said he was hurt early in the year, and he said, I want to be in the big games. Well,
and he was.
What's bigger than this?
He certainly had his shot. You could almost feel, you watched the last couple of minutes. How did you feel at the end of the game? I felt that...
I felt let down.
I felt that they weren't good. After the pass was dropped, I knew he was going to miss the field goal. I just knew it.
I felt like Suggs if you watching it. I felt like Suggs was sitting there watching the game and was like, oh my God.
Right, exactly.
I mean, that's, you know, you just couldn't, it was almost
just
like it didn't happen, and it was going to be, they were going to take a break and come back, and
just not meant to
they
be.
picked the
But
right
by the
field
same
goal.
token, there were a number of things that happened over the course of the year that got them to that point that went the other way. So, you can't complain. They had a great year.
Question, you're the head coach, you going to bring him back?
Honestly, probably not.
Well, I think a lot of fans feel like that, so I think over the off-season, do you think...
But I don't have the advantage of having spent a year or 2 years with this guy, working with him to see what he's really doing, as opposed to the perspective from outside, which is what all the fans have. you have to believe if the owner and the head coach are backing this guy, there's something there.
Well, I asked you a good question. A lot of fans have said, I've heard them say it. What do you think Matt Stover was thinking that day?
I hate to ask, to be honest with you.
I bet he was thinking he wished they would have gave him a phone call.
Maybe so, but again, this guy, last year he was great. This year, at the beginning of the year, he was great. And then he got injured, and maybe something got in his head, who knows? I mean, it's professional football, anything can happen. And the other team is trying to do it just the same way.
All right, well, just, we'll continue that in a short break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back. I've asked my guests several questions, and, you know, as the fans out there watching, we'd certainly like to know what your thoughts are. You know, give us a call. If there's any topics that are of interest to you, let us know. The show is here for you. It's for the fans. Jerry, just one quick thing. I mentioned a little bit, because it's really a big conversational piece about Tom Brady's wife and her reaction and attacking the team, her team.
Well, you have to, there are several questions. First of all, has she ever played football? Why didn't they talk to any of the other wives? I mean, she's a celebrity. That's why they talked to her. What would the other wives have said? What would the other wives have said about Tom Brady? Who knows? Well, that would be interesting.
Anyway, no, but the question I think a lot of fans is just why you attack the team? Why not attack the people that said that? But also, did you know that the Super Bowls, of all the Super Bowls, like up to the last Super Bowl, only 4 have been played in cold weather states?
I didn't know that, but I did know somewhere along the line in years past they started negotiating with a lot of the dome stadiums for that very purpose. And I would guess what triggered it was what did they call it, the Ice Bowl or something? The one in Green Bay back in the early, what was it, number 3 or something like that, where it was -degree temperatures and, you know, outside for wind chill and whatnot.
Well, see, I know, like you and myself, we're really
a little bit older.
Real old traditional football players.
I don't like that real old.
I don't really care for doing. You know, football to me is elements. You know, when it rains and snows and there's mud, that's football.
When I was in college, we started a tradition about the Santa Claus Anonymous football game. And that first weekend when we played that first game, it snowed, froze, rained, sleeted. I mean, we played for 72 hours straight. You know, we had each team only played for 2 hours at a time, and then traded off from different schools. And all I remember is I remember busting up my kneecaps on the frozen mud when it froze over. You know, you don't see that in today's football. Why is that?
You don't see. Well, you know, they play on this man-made turf. They got play in 72-degree conditions.
Right.
I
sometimes expect to see a waiter or somebody coming out carrying the football on a tray, a silver tray.
Get close to that. You get very close to that. And I think that takes away from football, because I know, I'm sure one of your favorites was Johnny and Inez.
Oh, yeah.
They were football players in my respect. Not that these aren't football players here, but...
No, I think I'd have to put Ray Lewis in there with any of them, so,
Well, he's certainly, the heart of that team.
Yes.
Even though, and he'll probably be back next year, because I just think he does a lot of off the field.
If he's not back as a player, I just can't believe that he won't stay around as some kind of a coach of
Oh,
some
he will.
kind.
He will,
He,
I'm
he's-
sure.
he is the Ravens, I mean, let's be honest.
Well, and the reason being is that, the question also has been, how come John Harbaugh, since he's been there, he's been a winner.
Yeah.
Been in the playoffs every year. How come he hasn't been Coach of the Year?
I never actually thought about that.
Never.
And I guess it's because the Ravens are kind of a low-key team. They're not
Right.
popular, they're not, they're not so offensive-minded that they've caught the attention of the media. They win the hard way. They
I
win
think
blue collar.
I think he's outshadowed by Ray Lewis. Be truthful.
Think so?
Yeah, I think he's all you hear, and it's a good thing, but I think it's sort of held Harbaugh back a little bit from being honored as the coach of
See,
the year.
I would have never even thought about that, never even
Well,
considered
they
it.
talk about Ray Lewis, how he runs the team, how he picks the team up, he coaches, he works with them, and they all look at him and everything. So, I think a lot of focus is on him, which is good. I mean, he is a key player, but I think that sort of held Harbaugh back, and I've heard a lot of fans say, why isn't he?
Harbaugh's not really a very public figure, Even in his interviews, he doesn't say a whole lot. And I think that's on purpose, but it's probably also part of his personality. I've never met the man, so I have no idea.
And,
You should have him as a guest on your
yeah,
show.
well, we'll certainly work on that,
There you
Jerry,
go.
And there's a lot of key people we certainly want to bring on, but a lot of fans like to hear two fans talk about it because, when you're sitting in that living room watching a show or a football game, and
It's
you
a
got
whole lot more
questions.
comfortable than sitting out in the stadium in the elements, as you call them. Although in recent years, the only football games I've gone to is when I've been invited to one of the boxes, so it's a whole lot more comfortable now in my old age.
Did you?
In my real old age, you
Yeah.
call me, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
What about the? Have you ever went to a Super Bowl game?
No, I never have.
I haven't either, but just to show you where things have gotten, I don't know if you want to call it out of range or whatever, but the hotel next to the stadium at Indianapolis, a room for one night for $4,000.
What does it come with? I guess we better not answer that.
Yeah. But I mean,
I have been to a playoff game once, I guess, what was it, back in 71, when the Colts were here, and there was a playoff game at the stadium here. I went to one of those, and that was when, who was our quarterback from Louisiana, or whatever it was? Bert? I can't remember back then, but I did go to one playoff game once.
An interesting question here, and I think, again, I think the audience likes to know this. We're this close from the Super Bowl each year, the Ravens. What do you think we need to take us over that hump? We were fortunate enough not to have to face
Luck.
Pittsburgh.
Luck more than anything else.
Do you think it's luck
I
rather than a
think
key
it is.
player?
I think it is. I mean, let's be honest. Lee Evans dropping the ball and the other guy hitting it at just the right time, that's luck. In the Super Bowl itself, the big play, there's always a big play in every Super Bowl game, and the big play there was that throw from Manning down the sidelines to, and I can't remember which receiver it was that caught it, but that was a fantastic catch. It could just as easily have been dropped or knocked out or stepped out of bounds or whatnot. And why wasn't it? Luck as much as anything else. I mean,
Well, it's funny you talk about luck because here the Patriots, they had a choice. They won the coin toss, and they were considered the home team in the Super Bowl. So when they lost to the Giants 4 years ago, they wore their traditional navy blue suits. They had a chance to wear the white ones, okay, and to possibly flip it around and maybe bring luck to their side. But they chose again to wear the navy blue. And,
maybe they're superstitious, who knows?
yeah. And this is only the
Or maybe somebody paid them to do that. Money talks.
yeah. And this is the second time that the score and Super Bowl history, the second time the score of 21-17 came up.
Who was the first one?
I think it was way back. It was like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was way back in the.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
When the Super Bowl was still in single digits.
But it's funny how history repeats itself and does things this. But you don't
I
think
doubt too many of the younger people today even realize that the Kansas City Chiefs were ever in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. You don't think, I mean, I do, I personally think that we should go out and look for a kicker.
Right now?
No, I mean,
Oh.
in the off-season, don't you think that, we should go out and be looking for maybe at least a backup?
I wouldn't. Again, I think the
You're gonna
Ravens.
stay with
I
it.
think the Ravens do well with what they do. They don't panic. I mean, right now they're looking for a backup running back because Ricky Williams retired. Last year, when did they get Ricky Williams? I mean, just before it was after the exhibition season started, and there are lots of good players available at that time, and I think they know that, so there's no need to panic. So if they do go through their exhibition season, their training, and feel a need for a kicker or a guard or a center or anybody else, they know that they can find good players.
He's
and-
not
and
actually retired
train
yet.
them. I'm sorry?
He's not actually retired yet.
Well, I hope he
said
doesn't.
retired, but he's,
I hope he doesn't. I mean, he was a good fit for the team. He really was, truly.
yeah.
His experience, his demeanor with the team, and the rest of the team respected him.
All right.
And that's what this particular team needs, any players that are respected.
All right, Jerry, well, look, we'll be right back, and so just hold that thought, okay?
Okay. I can hold it.
You can hold that thought, okay? Welcome back. Jerry, do you have any last thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Well, the biggest thought I can think of at the moment is the fact that I watched the Super Bowl pretty much at home by myself. You said you had a big party. Next year, I'm going to come to your house.
Well, you're certainly welcome. And just before we close, I'd like, just want to say a couple facts that, the Super Bowl is a very interesting game. I think it gets bigger every year. More people watch it that don't even like football. It's a tradition. It's growing. It's almost like mom and apple pie. It's a challenge for everybody. I hope everybody enjoys it. Hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you'll join us next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and if you'd like to get in touch with us, call the number at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.